Welcome to another episode of In Depth with David. Today I'm once again joined by my friend Joe, and we are going to be doing a two-part series where we rank the top 100 survivors. And today will be part one, where we'll be ranking all the way from number 100 to number 49. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you, David. My computer's acting up and you can't see my face, but you know what? I am here and I am ready to go.
You're here? Yep.
All right, so we're gonna get right into it here. Starting at number 100, to the surprise of no one, I have Chris Underwood.
That's fair. He had, in my opinion, or this is just for me, it was my favorite one episode run of any Survivor ever with that. Finale. But for someone to win by being voted out on day 8, I mean, that nothing else needs to be said. It's very controversial in the least.
Yes, it is. Now, don't get me wrong. EOE was a part of the game that season. He used it as part
different rules, right?
And in the rules, I totally admire that. However, when we're looking at Survivor, I think there are many other better players than Chris Underwood. Now, yes, he did do well in that last, what was it, 7-8 days that he came back?
It was like 4 to 5.
Might have been 4 to 5. Okay.
Because he won on day 35, and that was at the end of 35. So really 36 to 39 was the gameplay.
Yeah. All right. That's enough for Chris Underwood. I'm not here to start any EOE fights. We have plenty of EOE. Coming in at number 99, another winner, we have Amber.
Yeah, I mean, even she said it in the Winners at War finale. She's like, everyone was just mad at me because they thought my husband should have won. And, you kind of feel bad for her because she doesn't feel like she's a top-tier winner. But
yeah,
All Stars are just the Austin Rob.
The reason I have her above Chris is because she did do something to win that game. She didn't get in the way.
Right.
That is a valid way to play. Now, do people like it? A lot of people, no, they really don't. But you know what, though? That is a valid way to play the game. It really is.
Yeah, and we've seen this strategy used across the both reality TV shows, Survivor and Big Brother. You just use someone else to do all the dirty work, and you just stay clear like you were just talking about. And that's what she did with her eventual husband.
All right. We're going to go on a little bit of an old school run here. Number 98, I have Kimmy Kappenberg from Survivor Australia and Second Chance.
Okay, interesting.
I'm gonna start off here. So, Kimmy, she got voted out. I believe it was the pre-merge in Survivor Australia.
Yeah, she barely missed the jury.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
That's what I thought. Okay. But you know what, though? She came back on Second Chance, and for a lot of these people, I'm going to say, like, what did you prove? For some of these people, Kimmy proved that you can come back after, like, arguably 15 years and still get better in a new age playing a school game, Now, most people will say, well, she didn't do anything. Well, you know what? No, I disagree, She found a dominant alliance in Second Chance, and you know what? She rolled with it. And in my opinion, she didn't get voted out in Second Chance. She did not. She was like the first, it just happened.
By default, yeah.
What do you think about Kimmy?
So I can't remember too much from her Australia journey, but from what I've seen in Second Chances, yeah, I mean, I understand the comments. Like, she wasn't the most flashy player, but I do think she's one of the better players. Maybe the best player in recent memory from old school to adapt to the new school gameplay. I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head.
I think Kimmy over Kelly Wigglesworth.
Definitely. I mean, we saw everyone in Winners at War kind of fall flat, but I won't go too deep into that. But I mean, yeah, she was just kind of like maneuvering her way socially. And I feel like if it wasn't for that whole, unlucky situation at the final 6 in Cambodia, then I feel like she could have possibly made a run to get to the final 3.
And this will be something I'll ask on these later people on my list. Were you surprised to see Kimmy on the list?
I was. I didn't think about it, but I understand it. And I feel like this is a good ranking.
Okay. So like I said, we're going on a little bit of an old school run here. At number 97, we have someone who was tragically cut short on their second time. I have Terry Dietz from Panama and Second Chance.
Okay.
I mean, Hey, Terry did well out there in Panama in his first time, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is going to be something I say about Yule later on. I mean, he had that overpowered idol that he could use, so people couldn't really vote him out. And so
Right.
I do remember, because I did rewatch Panama somewhat recently. There were some weeks where Terry was just doing nothing. But you know what, though? He went out in those challenges and he did well. And back in Survivor Panama, that was a very valid way to play Survivor, was to go win all the challenges. And he also positioned himself well in Second Chance. You know, it's unfortunate that it got cut short due to personal reasons. But, I like Terry Dietz. He had a good time out there in Panama. He was set up well in Second Chance, so I figured I would put him on the list.
I agree with that, and I actually forgot about the whole Super Idol thing because, I think that's a great comparison. Like him and Yule both kind of had that crutch with like the Godfather Idol to help him maneuver through the game. But in terms of Terry Dietz's appearance in Panama, I thought he was doing solid. He's one of those players where, they did win a lot of immunities, and they definitely relied on that. If he didn't win those immunities, I feel like it's safe to say he would have gone out a lot earlier than third because his social game left a lot of work to be done there. But he did come back in Cambodia, and like you said, he got himself in a good position. He was very likable on both tribes he was on, and it was just unfortunate that it got cut short.
Yeah. Were you surprised to see Terry on the list?
A little bit. I thought.
Or did you think he'd be like in the mix?
I thought he'd be in the mix, maybe a little bit higher ranking, but this definitely makes sense.
Okay. All right. So very similar archetype here, and we're still going on the Second Chance run. At number 96, I have Andrew Savage from Pearl Islands and Second Chance.
Okay, this is an interesting one.
So what a lot of people don't remember is that in Pearl Islands, the Drake tribe, the blue team, they got out to a fast start. And then what happened was Savage had his crew with I think it was T, Rhino, and they had Austin there for a bit. I don't remember who else because that was a long time ago. I know a lot of people love Pearl Islands, so I'm sorry, Survivor Pearl Islands fans, if you're throwing a hissy fit. But he led them to a comeback all the way to the merge. And then he really got screwed by the Outcast because Burton came back. That gave Drake a +1. They were going to be even at the merge, and then they kind of lost. And then second chance, he came back. I mean, he played pretty much the same game. I mean, I think he played a little better in Second Chance than he did in Pearl Islands. And, I don't want to say he didn't get voted out, but he didn't get the majority of the votes at the tribal council he got. What do you think about Savage coming in at number 96?
So, talking about his Pearl Islands appearance, I thought if the Outcast twist didn't happen, we probably could be looking at the winner or someone who would go very deep into the game.
That's a good point, because if you remember Drake, the blue team, they were very dysfunctional because they had Sandra, Fairplay, and Rupert, and they all had a three-way hate for each other.
Right. And, he had this nice little, old school mentality. I'm the leader. Let's stick together to this big pack and we'll just ride to the end. And that was working for him in Pearl Islands up until the time he got screwed by the twist. And like you said, I think that's very fair to say he played a very similar game in Cambodia.
I think maybe a little better. I would argue a little better because you have to remember him and Tasha went to that horrible yellow tribe that I can't remember the name of. And they were down against, I think it was Wu, PG, Abby, and Jeff Varner.
Right. And
they were able to get through there. You do have to give him credit. Now, you might want to give more credit to Tasha, but, he was there and he did what he needed to do to get through there to the merge. He could have easily gotten picked off in the pre-merge.
I will say, though, just real quick before we move on, because Savage has said he's willing to come back, and I feel like he could come back at some point. If he's coming back, he needs to understand that there's more of a cutthroat mentality in today's Survivor because he's all about loyalty and stuff, and I feel like that's kind of led to his demise both seasons because
both times he's been too trusting.
Exactly. So he just has to have more of that cutthroat mentality, not throw a hissy fit when he gets blindsided and all that, and keep his composure. But that's all I have to say.
Are you surprised to see Andrew Savage on the list?
Yeah, I thought he'd be a little lower, and I'm going to be I'm going to be honest. I'm surprised that he's higher than Terry Deeks. That's an interesting one, but I like surprises.
Well, there are some times where I have like two people on the same season, like right near each other, and I put the person who went farther ahead of them, even though I don't know. That's just something I've done.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, we're moving on. I'm going to do the next two in a row because they're similar. At 95 and 94, respectively, I have Lex Vandenberg and Big Tom Buchanan.
Okay.
Both from Survivor Africa and Survivor All-Stars. Now, this is really coming down to Lex versus Tom. I put Tom ahead because Tom managed to get fourth place and fifth place, where Lex got third and I think it was 10th, right at the merge of
Ninth place. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I mean, that's really it. What do you have to say about both Lex and Big Tom?
Yeah, so Lex in Africa played a very underratedly dominant game. People forget he was like almost 40 years old in that season. He won a lot of immunities. For some reason, he had a solid social game, even though he kind of came off as a little bit of a...
He came off as a bit like abrasive, but right. He was able to maintain that with people, though, which is good.
It's safe to say that if he makes the final two in Africa, I feel like he beats some people, and I feel like if he's up against Ethan, he gives him a good run for his money. So yeah, he's in a prime position to run that. And then All-Stars, he was playing fine. He just made the infamous decision to trust Boston Rob, his friend outside the game, and ended up costing him the game. But yeah, is what it is. He's this overall solid player. And then Big Tom, I mean, he's a great character on TV, but he's a fan favorite at the time. No game. I mean, very little like strategy. He's like Keith Nail before Keith Nail, kind of. I'll put it like that.
Oh, you made a big mistake, buddy. I have Keith Nail much higher on this list. I feel like Keith Nail is actually an elite Survivor player. Come at me.
Let me clarify. Keith Nail has more game than Big Tom, but they just have like that similar.
They have the same placements. They both went fourth.
Exactly. Yeah, they just coast by. They'll give you a good confessional or two, maybe, but no game from Big Tom.
Yeah, so I have both of them on this list right next to each other. I couldn't really think. I put Tom ahead because Tom has a better average placement than Lex.
Sure. Yeah.
And that whole merge debacle with Boston Rob, I think that's partially Lex's fault. I think Rob was being I think that's where Rob lost it because he was so mean to Lex.
And no one knew what backstabbing was in Survivor up until that point.
I put part of that on Lex, but not all of it on Lex.
Right.
Lex was really mad for a long time. He was like off the grid. Yeah. He was like really mad. But then eventually, I guess what Boston Rob said in an interview, one day he just saw a random phone call. And he picked it up and it was Lex and they talked. And
right. They're not friends, but they're like cool with each other now.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for.
All right. So that's it for the old school run here. We're going to go a little more. Actually, we still have a decent amount of old school, but we're going to get a quick break and go to mid school. At number 93, I have Kenny from Survivor Gabon.
Okay. I'm glad he's in the mix.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenny. I mean, you have to, in Gabon, there's not a top here. I'm going to quickly spoil where someone else is on this list. Where do I have him? Oh, right there. There's not a top 90 player in sight in Survivor Gabon, according to me.
Not Jillian. I'm so surprised.
No, Michelle Chase.
Yeah.
No, anyway. No, I mean, you look at Kenny. His starting tribe, the Fong tribe, that is an awful tribe. He's able to make it work and get all the way to Final Five against a much better, much more cohesive, more successful tribe. Kenny's able to infiltrate and take out that whole alliance, and he gets all the way to Final Five. And, I think it's impressive. A lot of people don't like Kenny because they just hate Survivor Gabon. But I'll pass it over to you on Kenny Huang.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've seen some of Gabon, but if I remember correctly, he had like this connection with one of the girls on his starting tribe, and she got
Yeah.
voted early.
Yeah,
Right.
it was Michelle. They were like together because like Michelle was like not doing well, and Kenny, being a nice guy, went over and like was like comforting her. But then everyone else was like, "Oh, it's Kenny and Michelle on the outs."
Exactly. So he kind of alienated himself early on.
Yeah,
but-
he didn't have a great start, but once he and Crystal started working together, and then they grabbed Maddie too,
Right.
then they started doing well.
But he was able to make it work. He won a few immunities. He had a good social game. And to that point where you say people don't like Kenny, I feel like it's just kind of like a lot of people don't appreciate like the nerdy archetype. And Kenny was kind of like,
Kenny might have arguably been the first one.
I think so. I mean, Cochran's the biggest one, but Kenny was
Not the most successful, but he was also, I think, the first person that went out and said, "Hey, you can be like a very neurotic kind of introvert, and you can do well on Survivor."
right. And one more thing about him, it's a shame that he hasn't come back yet, and I hope he comes back in a future season.
He says he did an AMA. He did an updated AMA recently in December of 2019. He said that in his AMA, he was asked back for Game Changers, but then they cut him for Zeke. So he was the last man out on Game Changers.
Okay. That's yeah. I mean, Zeke, we won't get into him too much, but,
Not yet. I
I
believe we are going to talk about Zeke today.
Okay.
Yes, we are going to talk about Zeke today, but we're not there yet. So coming in at number 92, I have Eliza Orleans from Survivor Vanuatu and Micronesia,
Okay.
a player that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, very polarizing. You either love her or hate her, I feel like.
She did well on Vanuatu, She did not fit in with her tribe at all. I feel like the men versus women of Vanuatu really did not help Eliza at all. I think it just made it harder for her, but she was able to work it with some of the guys, and, she did pretty well. And then in Micronesia, I mean, she had the whole stick thing, but,
Yeah.
her legendary, her status of being a B word is really what's getting her on this list. She was nasty out there.
So and Vanuatu, she finished in 4th that season, right? I want to say
I
4th place.
believe it was 4th. Yes.
Yeah, like you said, she did a good job of like integrating herself with like the men and maneuvering herself through the women's tribe. I just feel like because she was at such a young age that season, like it was going to be hard for her to win any jury because I don't think many people really respected her.
Yeah, let me check how young she was. She was pretty young that year.
And then Micronesia, I mean, not to any of her fault. It wasn't her fault at all. It's just she really got off to a rough start. Parvy was coming after her, and with Parvy coming after her, obviously her link to James, Ozzy, like she just kind of rubbed her starting tribe the wrong way. And I think it was a miracle she made the merge. But yeah, her Micronesia game is a little shaky, but she did bring us that great moment with her and Jason Cisco with the stick.
On that Micronesia season for the favorites is them losing Penner was huge.
Right. Okay.
Because the other side had James, Amanda, Sari, Parvati, Ozzy.
Right.
But then the other side, and they lost Fairplay too. Fairplay was going to go with them. It was going to be Amy Cusack, Eliza, Penner, Yowman, and Fairplay. That was going to be the other 5. And that could have done well. I mean, that got dismantled by Penner.
Fairplay quitting and
Fairplay
Penner.
basically quitting.
Right.
But yeah, that's it for Eliza Orleans. We're going to keep it moving here. Number 91. Here's someone I bet you didn't think would be on the list. I guarantee you did not think this person would be on the list.
Okay.
Survivor Borneo and Survivor All-Stars. I have Jenna Lewis at number 91.
Whoa. Okay. This is an interesting one.
I was right. You definitely weren't thinking that.
Yeah, this is out of left field for me, but I'm interested. Explain.
Let me make my point. Jenna Lewis was a key part of Survivor Borneo. She is a key part of Richard getting as far as he did. In Survivor All-Stars, during the first iteration of the Mariano Crime Syndicate, Jenna Lewis is able to escape all the way to Final Three, and she was not part of that original Shapira crew. That Shapira crew was it was Amber, it was Rob, it was Big Tom,
Rob C.
and Rob C. Well, I'm saying at the merge, Rob C got voted out.
Oh, and okay, so yeah,
Who was the other person? It was Amber, Rob,
Sue.
Big Tom, Alicia. It's Sue.
Sorry, she quit pre-merge, but yeah, Alicia, you're right.
And Alicia, yeah. Anyway, so they were just destroying everybody. And Jenna Lewis is able to get all the way to the Final Three. If Jenna Lewis can get through that Final Three against either one, Jenna Lewis is your winner of Survivor Borneo.
Probably unanimously. Or 6-4.
Probably unanimously, yeah. And one more note that's a point. She's from Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yeah, she's right around the area. Yeah, I mean, she was a popular player in Borneo. I mean, she was one of the first Survivor players, so she had a lot of popularity from that first appearance. Like you said, I feel like her All-Stars game is definitely underrated. I mean, like you said, she wasn't part of that big like faction, and she's just able to maneuver her way through. I think she won some immunities.
And she won some immunities. She got Big Tom and Alicia to go before she did, and Rupert. Rupert was kind of part of that too.
Right.
Well, not really part of it, but he was like an honorary part of it, you know? So
I agree.
Credit. I bet you definitely didn't think Jenna Lewis was going to be in the mix.
Yeah, it was surprising for sure, but now that we talked about it, it makes some sense.
I hope you're happy to see some of these old school people getting in, you know?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like when all the commenters see this, they're going to be like, "Oh, well, where's all these other people?"
Well, they need more representation, the old schoolers, especially after what happened in 40. Like, I feel like it's good we're appreciating them.
Yes. All right. We're going to our next winner at number 90. I have Bob Crowley.
Run around Bob.
Run around Bob. Hey, his social game was really good.
Yeah, he's like your typical 60-year-old dad, cracking dad jokes, making everyone laugh.
Yeah.
He was on the chopping block many times, and
he really needed to win those communities, and he really lucked out with Sugar getting the he really lucked out with Sugar giving him a chance at Fire.
Yeah, and especially that final three, he couldn't have been against two more, I guess, unlikable people in the face of the jury.
He only won 4-3.
Right. He barely edged out Susie, but I mean,
Bob is one of my top 3 luckiest winners. We're going to talk about one of them later today, and then one we've talked about from Survivor Season 37.
Yeah, I mean, but
his social game was good. He did good in the challenges. Challenges were still a valid way to play in Gabon. I feel like after the cutoff for being a challenge beast winning is probably Heroes Villains, with the exception of Worlds Apart.
That's fair. One more thing about Bob is, like we said, his social game is great, but he was on the chopping block plenty of times. But I will say he did give us one of the best moments in Survivor history with the fake idol that he gave to Randy, or that he made for Randy. I will say that almost cost it in the game, but somehow he got Randy to vote for him. But still, it was a great moment.
That was the deciding thing. I was looking into it because the last 3 jurors, which was Crystal, Kenny, and Maddie, they all voted for Susie.
See, it was the 2 factions, the Onions versus them. Last 3.
The Onions voted for Bob. It was Marcus, Corinne, Bob. It was Marcus, Corinne, Charlie, and Randy.
Yep. Randy was the swing, and Bob was able to get him.
You know why, though? Because the Onions hated Susie.
Right.
Because Susie didn't go with them at the merge. That's why Charlie went home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna move on. Good for you, Bob. Number 89. Someone that a lot of people don't like, but I have to give them credit that they did pretty well. I have Dawn Meehan from South Pacific and Caramon coming in at number 89.
Yeah, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I'll start. So, South Pacific people are like, "Oh, well, Dawn was just picked off." Well, you know what though? Dawn was the second to last person picked off. I'm not including Cochran. Dawn was the second to last person picked off. But you know what though? She was playing the social game at South Pacific. They didn't want to vote Dawn off. Sophie stepped up and was like, "We're voting off Dawn." Coach didn't even want to vote off Dawn. Coach wanted to keep Dawn. That's what a lot of people don't remember. When Dawn went home was also the time that Albert wanted to team up with them and like try to make a move on Upolu. And Sophie had to step in and say, "No, we're following the course."
Right.
Since we're not going to talk about them today, very fun moment. So this is a side note. This has nothing to do with Dawn. This is just something really funny from South Pacific. So at the tribal council where Cochran goes home, Cochran's talking about how they should vote out Edna over him. And Cochran's like, "Well, what if Edna wins immunity next time?" And Sophie says something like, "Then it starts." And then Jeff Probst chimes in, "This has been an insightful tribal council." And Sophie says, "No, not really, not at all." And you can see just this disgust with Jeff. He's like, "All right, vote." I don't know. I thought that was really funny from that season.
Just real quick, Probst did not like Sophie winning. That's basically been confirmed. But talking about Dawn, she gets a little too much unnecessary hate. I feel like South Pacific, like we were talking about, she was just kind of like the motherly figure on the Savaii tribe. Everyone liked her. She had a good connection with Cochran, even though she was on the outs, or he was on the outs.
She was the only one that didn't berate Cochran after he flipped. Dawn was like, Cochran, I understand what you did. It's just really unfortunate that you didn't include me in this. I've done it too.
Right.
Whereas opposed to Ozzy, Keith, and Ozzy, Jim Rice, Whitney, we're all like, "You effing suck, Cochran. I'm going to effing kill you."
Yeah, and I mean, she did a good job of managing that relationship, so it didn't put a target on her because she was like a motherly figure to him, but she didn't like help maneuver him through the game. And it was unfortunate that the whole thing happened with Cochran flipping because she was just a casualty in that.
And then I was going to go to Caramoan. I mean, she made it to the end. I mean, you can talk about the level of players in Caramoan being lackluster, to put it nicely, but you know what though, she was able to maneuver through the game. The T thing at the end was just too much for me. I was like,
yeah, that was uncalled for. I will say her game in Caramoan is underrated in the sense that she played very similar to Cochran. The only difference between her and Cochran is Cochran was deemed as more likable and like they liked the underdog story from his first season, whereas Dawn was just kind of seen as like the moves she made with Cochran, she took the heat for it, and Cochran, they weren't mad at him. They just said that was a good move on his part. So she just kind of benefited from, I guess you could say, more of a like bitter jury towards her. I mean, the move against Brenda was necessary, but for some reason they took it very personally. But I think she played a good enough game in South Pacific and just got screwed. And then Caramoan, she played a solid game.
Yeah. Were you surprised to see Dawn in the list, or did you think she'd be in the mix, or what did you think?
I thought she'd be in the mix. I wasn't sure where she'd be ranked, but I definitely think she deserves some recognition.
That's true. All right, we're going to keep moving here. We are going to number 88. I feel like you'll be intrigued by this one. I have Abby Maria at number 88.
Okay, this is going to get interesting here.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't remember is that Abby found and successfully played an idol in Survivor Philippines. You have to give her credit for that. I mean, the clue was planted. I mean, the social game for Abby really leaves a lot to be desired. It's probably like a 2 or 3 out of 10 if you're feeling nice. But you know what? She did pretty well, and she was able to maneuver through second chance. She could have been voted out like early in those first 4 tribal councils in second chance. She should have been the one to go because she's not good at challenges and she's a pain to live around. But you know what, though? She was able to make it through on a season with a lot of good players on Survivor Second Chance and make it all the way to 7th place. I feel like that's remarkable, and that deserves her to get in on this list.
Yeah, so I personally am not like the biggest fan of Abby Maria's gameplay. I like seeing her on television because it is refreshing to see like what's been happening in the more recent seasons. It's just like 20 game bots. It's nice to see some people who are like chaotic train wrecks. Her social game, I don't care. All the Abby Maria stands can come at me. Awful in Philippines.
Philippines was bad. Second Chance was better, but it's still not great.
She unnecessarily just did things to get people on her bad side. It was a mistake for people not to take her to the end. Like, I feel like voting her out at whatever it was, like
They
5.
voted her out at 5 at Philippines.
Yeah, I feel like it's a slam dunk against her. She did win an immunity that season, a clutch one, and she did play the idol, like you said. So she had a few highlights. Second chances, again, she got off to a rough start. She got a lot of votes in those pre-merge tribal councils, but
she was able to bounce back and make it pretty far in the game. You do have to give her some credit for that.
Right. And she jumped a little too hard out of the gate at the beginning with the whole PG bag incident. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was I was like, oh, this is just classic Abby. I was like, what is this?
But she was able to calm herself down, and she was part of that epic tribal with the Kelly Wentworth blindside. And I think that's like great awareness to realize, like, oh, I should calm down. Like, I've gotten myself in trouble. And, 7th place in a full All-Star season, that's nothing to clown about.
Did you expect Abby to even be in the mix, or did you think no? Wow.
I wasn't expecting her. I thought she'd like barely miss the cut, but like I said, now I understand it for sure. Placement wise, she did solid.
Maybe you not fully agree, but now you can understand the argument.
Absolutely.
Which is good. All right, while we're speaking of players with terrible social games, at number 87, I have Jervis.
Okay. All right.
I mean, Borneo, he was fun out there. He did well, I mean, he just kind of got picked off because that's kind of what happened. But so I'm mainly looking at blood versus water here. His social game in that season was terrible.
That's a fair assumption. Yeah.
After every challenge, he'd be screaming, "Yeah, we're the best. You suck. Get wrecked." Oh,
right.
Won.
Yeah.
But hey, he was able to make it far in the game. Everyone gives Tyson credit for the whole like we lost our loved ones, so let's get the singles together. But Jervis was actually a big part of that, and Jervis would like start stuff with Aris at the merge, so that would give Tyson an excuse to turn on his alliance and vote out Aris.
Right.
And again, Jervis falls into that Kimmy category of showing you can wait like 13, 14 years, come back, and you can do better. You can improve after such a long layoff in the first season. Now, Jervis played a very similar game to Borneo, but, he won some challenges down the stretch. And, yeah, I have Jervis on this list.
Yeah, so I will say, obviously he was part of that season in Borneo, so, a lot of people gained a lot of popularity from that. I don't remember much from that, so I'm just also going to talk about blood versus water. But I will say his social game is also atrocious. I mean, he's the reason why Marissa got voted off at whatever tribal council that was, because he was showboating after they won the immunity challenge. And he played a good social game within his tight alliance of Tyson and Monica, but he basically alienated everyone who was not with him, which is basically...
especially Hayden at that rock draw tribal. Really Hayden here.
This isn't Big Brother. This is Survivor. But
that was a good quote, though. I have to say that I did chuckle when that came on.
Yeah, he was a good soundbite, but his social game left a lot to be found. I will argue he's probably a bigger goat than Monica, and Tyson probably realized this. And there was no chance of him winning. His game was just to get to day 39 and see what happens. But
the main reason I have him like above an Abby is because it's the whole layoff thing. Like he came back after 13 years and he did better. So I do have to give him credit for that.
For sure. Yeah. He's one of those players from old school who was able to.
Did you think Jervis would be in the mix or not really?
I thought if he was in the mix, he'd be closer to like 100 or like in that range.
Okay. So now we're going to go on a bit of a new school run here. I'm looking at my list. Okay. So internet is ready to come at me. Give me at number 86, Rick Devens.
Oh, right. It's going to come with the pitchforks.
Yeah. I mean, Rick did some incredible things in the merge of EOE, but he was voted out 4th.
Shh. Don't tell anyone that. Yeah.
I mean, you can argue that wasn't his fault that he got voted out. I mean, as War Dog said, the chances that tribe swap happens is like less than 0.1%.
Right.
Like if you go through all the configurations, that only happens like once out of like every 10,000 times. But he did play well. He really was a new school player. He was finding idols. He won some challenges. He was making fake idols. It's just the whole thing of being voted out fourth, really or fifth. I don't remember the number. Actually, I think it was fourth. That just really brings it down for me. I'm sorry. Sorry, Reddit. Reddit, if you want to come at me, you can come at me.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in school and in person.
Yeah, we have talked about this in person.
We both love Rick Devens. Like, he's a great TV personality. I mean, he is a news reporter, but he's a little bit overrated. But in a sense, like, he was playing a good game in the original Manu Tribe. Like, everyone loved him. Lots of laughs, and then he just got swap screwed. And back from the edge of extinction. Almost got voted out at the merge again, but then he was able to settle down. He was actually the one who broke up that infamous Julio Tribal Council, which is one of the better tribal councils in recent memory.
That was a good tribal council.
He played a lot of idols correctly, like you said, fake idols, won a lot of clutch immunities. His social game, it's weird. It's an enigma because it started off well. But
it didn't really go well in the mill. It really didn't. But
right, because it's one thing to make everyone laugh, but he was unable to integrate himself into Alliance, and he basically played like the latter half of the post merge by himself once War Dog got voted out. But he finished in fourth. But like you said, him getting voted out fourth puts an asterisk on his resume. But I will say,
where did you expect Rick to be on the list?
Right around here is fair. Maybe a little higher.
Maybe like low 70s, early 80s. You were thinking maybe.
Right. Yeah. I will say one more thing on him. He played like the quintessential like new school survivor game, like flashy moves, play idols.
Yeah, he did.
So if he comes back another season, we don't know how he'll do, but he's a fun player to watch.
All right. We are going to number 85. I have Trish Haggerty, and I am getting a phone call, so I'm going to let you take the floor.
Okay. Yeah, Trish Haggerty, Massachusetts native. Shame she hasn't come back yet, but she did play a very good game in Cagayan, in my opinion. She was Tony's number 2. She got rid of a ton of fires, or she extinguished a lot of fires that Tony created, and she had an underrated social game. I feel like she was really the one who was able to turn Cass at the merge, and basically they were able to run the tables, her and Tony.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is what a lot of people don't realize is that at the merge, Tony was trying to get someone to flip. I don't remember who. I don't think it was Cass. Tony was still trying to get Sarah.
Right.
Tony, I don't think that's a good idea. And Tony's like, Trish, let me try it. And then Tony's like, Trish, you were right. It didn't work.
Yeah, and I mean, Trish, she played a great game as Tony's number 2. Excellent social game. I think it's fair to say Tony definitely doesn't win Cagayan if it's not for Trish being by his side. Trish just fell victim to the unfortunate new school tendency of Survivor where, loyalty, it's not necessarily all the way out the window, but people understand that at 5 or in the later parts of the game before it's day 39, they need to cut people who are more likable to the jury and all that. So she just kind of got screwed by that. But I would love to see her come back at some point. I think she has a lot more game left.
And just for you and me, for all the viewers out there, me and David are both in the northeast part of Massachusetts. Trish is Medford zone.
Yep.
Trish, very underrated from that season.
Definitely.
Very underrated. And let's see. Next up, I have at 84. This is an interesting one. I have Eric Reichenbach coming in at number 84.
Did you know that he gave up immunity?
What? I've never heard about that.
I know, right?
Heard him say anything about that.
I'll let you take it away, though.
I mean, Eric, he had his big blunder. That's why he's much lower on this list. He had a big blunder that I feel is indefensible. I'm sorry, Eric Reichenbach. He played well in Micronesia with all of those great fans. Great favorites. Well, and the fans. I thought the fans were actually very good that season.
It was a solid tribe. I agree.
That was a solid fans tribe. He was able to maneuver through, all those guys were getting picked off, like James and Ozzy and Jason Siska. And you know what a lot of people don't remember is that final 6 where he should have been done. He didn't have immunity, and he got them to vote out Alexis over him.
Right.
And you know the girls thought they were done because they let Eric slide through, and then Eric won that challenge. And I mean, they did what they did. I mean that's great. I mean, I don't need to rag on Eric anymore, but you know he came out in Caramoan and he had a pretty big target. I mean on the Caramoan favorites, you could argue the only two that are favorites because of their game. Really, I would argue are Eric and Malcolm. I wouldn't even argue John Cochran. But
yeah, I agree with that.
But, you know, he had a big threat level, and he was able to make it pretty far. And unfortunately, his body gave up on him. But, you know, I would have him higher, but unfortunately, he has that indefensible blunder at the final Micronesia. But I definitely wanted Eric to be on this list.
Yeah, Micronesia, he came in as a fan, like kind of like in awe of all the favorites and everyone else he was playing with. I
mean, I don't think he was a super fan, but I think he's seen the show before. That's the key.
Right. And he played solid. You know, he was just seen as like this goofy, you know, 21-year-old kid from Michigan, you know, just living the dream. You know, he had a lot of funny, goofy confessionals. He won a clutch immunity at the end, and of course, we know what followed that. He played a good social game, like I said, making everyone laugh. He had a connection with Ozzy on like the SWAT drive or something like that. And you know, I will say I'm not going to defend it, but I'm not going to say it's hard to see that coming when you're a 21-year-old ice cream scooper from Michigan who's surrounded by all these like good-looking women. Like Jeff Probst said, you know, it's easy to get misted, but he should have seen it coming. And I feel like if he gets to the end, maybe I don't know if he'll win, but he could get some votes for being like a fan to make it to the end. Like, I feel like that's something good on the resume.
I agree. Where did you expect Eric to be on this list?
I
think we can both agree that you think Eric is in the top 100 survivors.
I agree. I feel like this is a good range, maybe just like 3 to 5 spots higher or something like that, but this is a good range.
Yeah. I think 84 is a good spot for him.
And then one more thing, just talking about his Caramelon game. He did alienate himself early on with that connection to the infamous Brandon Hance, because we all saw how that played out.
And then another thing is Philip came to him and he was like, Eric, I want you to be another part of Health R Us, gave him some nickname. And Eric was like, no, I'm not doing this, Philip.
Yeah, so he was a little shaky at the beginning, but, you know, he just played this quiet game, won some immunities. He didn't make anyone mad. And I feel like if he made it to the end, he possibly could have won.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate about his medical evacuation.
4 new schoolers in a row coming up. Starting at number 83, give me Will Wall of Survivor Millennials versus Gen X.
The 18-year-old.
That's the main reason I'm on this list. He's the first like super young person to be on the show. I mean, I know we had Natalie Tenorelli and Braden Hance both at 19, but I don't have either of them in this. He really played well. And he showed that an 18-year-old can like play the game well. And you know, he really got screwed because Ken from that season just like blew his game up for like literally no reason.
That's not a test. That's a betrayal. That great confessional from Adam. But
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, he played well for an 18-year-old. There's nothing to rat on about that, because I mean, for someone that young to come in and get to day 34, that's very impressive. He made some mistakes in the alliances he chose. I mean, going with the whole Jay route.
Jay Taylor, Michelle Schubert contingent.
That's kind of what led to the demise of his game. I mean, yeah, he did end up flipping and voting out Zeke at like final 8 or whatever. But
yeah, he was able to turn it around a little bit.
He did. I mean, I understand why he revealed his age at the beginning because of the whole Millennials versus Gen X theme. So he's like, yeah, everyone, I'm right here. I'm the youngest player. But that moment right there, in my opinion, is what lost him the game, because as he was saying in confessionals throughout the season, no one was taking him seriously because he was 18 years old. And I feel like a jury wouldn't have been willing to admit that they got outplayed by an 18-year-old. But he did well. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see him play again. He's an interesting character. Underrated.
He is. I have him at 83. All right. Next up at 82, we have David's favorite survivor on Instagram, Lauren O'Connell.
Alrighty, I'll let you take it away.
I mean, she played another EOE person, you know. She played pretty well in EOE, you know. She used the whole meat shield thing with War Dog and Kelly. And, like, even Kelly didn't even realize that Lauren was doing that. Like, she found an idol. I mean, she gave it to Chris. I mean, you can talk about what you want there. But,
I'll get into that.
She really played the flirt card well. And, you know, she was able to when I was going back to what did you show? She showed that you could still play the flirt game as, like, a mid-20-year-old attractive woman and really succeed. Oh, and did you know she was a D1 athlete? I didn't hear that at all on the show.
That's news to me, actually. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think she had any confessionals about that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Nah, I mean,
I'm thinking I might have her a little too high in hindsight here, but
it's your rankings. I mean, let's see. So, not that it costed her anything, but she did get off to a tough start on the Manu Beach because Reem and Wendy and Keith, that kind of faction, was kind of rubbed the wrong way by her. There's some things in like a couple of Dalton Ross interviews where things were said at Tribal Council that didn't make the show, and Wendy like pointed at her saying she had like a secret alliance with Kelly and Chris, so she kind of put a target on her back, and she rubbed Reem the wrong way as well.
She really got into that Lesu group because she was the other person. If they weren't going to vote out Rick, they were going to vote out Lauren.
Yeah, and I feel like you touched on it well, where like the whole meat shield tactic of having War Dog and Wentworth in front of her, and that worked out well for her. She was able to get to 5th place. She was always like able to maneuver herself into these positions that War Dog and Kelly wouldn't have been able to due to their resume and target level at certain points in the game. I do think she also falls into that category where this younger player isn't taken seriously. So I feel like if she was able to get to the final 3 and speak her case on day 39, I don't feel like she would have been able to win. She may have even gone shut out because, again, for some reason, a lot of people, their ego-wise, like they just can't admit that they got outplayed by a younger person, even though I think
there were a lot of people with big egos on EOE.
Yeah, and I will say her decision to give Chris the idol at Final 6 is one of the more underrated dumber moves in Survivor. I understand kind of why she did it because Chris kind of misted her saying like,
I mean, on a podcast, she explained her logic, and I was like, okay, I mean, I get that, but like, still,
Chris tricked her into saying that Kelly told him on EOE she needs to make a big move with her idol. But I mean, masterful move by Chris. We already talked about him. But Lauren, I mean, if she holds on to the idol, she has a chance. I mean, she makes it to fire at least, and anything can happen from that point. But you know, a solid recent player.
All right, so now we're going to go to number 81. This one is pretty recent in our hearts. Give me Dean Kowalski at number 81.
Detective Dean.
DK Chillin at number 81.
Okay, I'll let you take it away.
I mean, I really did not like that season. Like, I really did not like that.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. But, hey, he really turned it on at the end. Like, I don't think we've ever seen someone just like step on the gas so hard after just coasting for like a long time and just goes racing into the finish line. And you know, he almost won. He got, what was that? Was that 6-4?
He got 2 votes from Aaron and Elizabeth, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he got 4 votes. I'm taking a check here. Oh no, you were right. It was only 2. But hey, I thought he really turned it on. But after rewatching, I understand why Tommy won. But you know, Dean was able to get out of a lot of Baylor Wilson's sticky situations early in the season. You know, he was in some rough places on that orange team. But then at the merge, you know, he was able to integrate himself into that like Vokai group that kind of just took over. And I have to say, his like feuds with Karishma was funny. Like that was some good comic relief.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Dean, the way he was edited is like one of the more confusing edits, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was weird. We were getting like nothing for a while.
The first 3 episodes, he doesn't have a confessional or something like that. First 2 or 3,
Yeah.
And the whole storyline with Chelsea, I mean, that put a big target on his back in the original Tribe. He's a fun little goofy player. He had a good social game because he was able to like, adapt and like he was able to connect with basically anyone about anything. He did get saved right before the merge with Kelly giving him the idol to idol or Jack. So that does definitely put a blemish on his resume because, there was no, in my opinion, there was no reason to save him there, but he was saved and obviously he was able to make it to the end. And I will say he had one of, if not the best, like fourth quarter performance, like you were touching upon in the finale episode.
Yeah.
It's easy to understand why he lost. So, he had no agency through the game and he just kind of relied on advantages and he only stepped on the gas towards like the latter part of the game. Whereas Tommy was just playing like a cool, dominant game, old school wise with no advantages. So I understand why Tommy won over Dean, but Dean's a fun player and I'd like to see him get another second shot to see if he's learned anything because he has a great social game, great physical game.
I remember. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember on finale night, you and me both thought Dean was going to win because he was just coming on so hard. And
yeah, he had a great edit.
I'm looking at confessional counts right now. Dean had 11 in the finale, and Tommy only had 8.
Yeah, that was a good finale.
And then Lauren Beck had 2. Nora had 5. So we're going to keep it going. Next up at number 80. Give me watered down David Wright. Give me Dr. Mike.
Okay, this is an interesting one to me. But
I personally think Dr. Mike is overrated. I feel like he still played well in Triple H, but I feel like people talk about him as like the best player on earth. But he was funny, he was quirky, but he got himself into a bad position in the merge because like the healers, I think it was Cole and Desi and what's her name, Jessica. They all got like picked off right in a row, and it was him and Joe Mena all alone. But they were able to bounce back. So I will give him credit for that. That moment with the idol and the fire, that was funny. I have to admit, that was funny. Because, like, what? He took some idol. Oh, yeah, they did the half thing, right?
It was Lauren's half idol. Yep.
And he just said to Lauren, I'm not playing this for you. It's no good. I'm just going to put it in the fire. And he just threw it in the fire.
Yeah, that was a good TV moment.
But, I think people really like Dr. Mike, but I'm being cautious with him here. I'm putting him at number 80.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm a big fan of watching Dr. Mike, and I wouldn't be opposed to him coming back as, like, a character, but I do not think he played a good game at all. Right when he hit the beach, him and Joe had that little feud because, Joe wanted to put a target on him for trying to look for an idol. Yeah. Excuse me, or whatever. So he got off to a bad start, and him and Joe were the 2 targets in that original healer tribe.
It's funny how they had to work together to get out of that mess.
Right. That was hilarious.
That was good irony. And you know what, though? To their credit, they both got it to work. Now, I don't have Joe Mena on this list, but they got it. They made it work, and Dr. Mike made it work. And, I do have him on the list.
Yeah, and he did well in that swap tribe. I mean, they just swept all the immunity challenges. And then, like you said, come the merge, the healers just started getting picked off. And, I mean, he was just kind of there.
Well, I feel like that's because didn't they have like a 5-4-3 lead? It was like 5 healers, 4 heroes, and I think 3 hustlers or something like that.
Right, and then the heroes and hustlers teamed up to vote out Jessica at the merge. But
and then Cole and then Desi, yeah.
Yeah, he was just kind of there. He was unable really to work himself into an alliance other than for that double episode where they blindsided JP. I mean, he was just a goofy guy. He was funny to watch. He misplayed that idol for whatever reason. I thought that was a terrible play, but he made it to 5th. It's not too shabby.
All right, so now we're going to number 79. Give me Christian Hubicki at number 79.
Okay.
Which coincidentally matches up exactly with the Legend group. They had Christian at 79. The Russell Specialists, Rob C, and Josh Wigler group.
Okay.
So I'm fine with them, with Christian at 79.
All right. Yeah, take it away.
I mean, Christian did well on David versus Goliath. I remember on the first marooning, like right at the beginning, Jeff asks Christian some generic question, and he gives some classic Christian answer, and everyone just started laughing at this kid.
Right.
But he really was able to do a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff that Christian did, I think, really helped Nick Wilson. And as you know, this is a spoiler for next week. We're not going to get to Nick Wilson today. Nick Wilson, me and David feel might arguably be the luckiest survivor of all time. And then in Winners at War, he got even more lucky, in our humble opinion. But Christian did a lot of good stuff. That immunity challenge thing against Alec was remarkable. He stood on that perch for 4 hours, and that's
great TV
position.
Mm-hmm.
That was great TV. They did the thing with him just talking about this stuff. It was just so fun.
Do you know what a Macron sandwich is, Jeff?
Christian was great. I'll let you go. I feel like Christian might be the person that almost embodies you, David, in a way.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope
I think you are a Christian and Dave Wright hybrid.
Okay.
The thing is, Christian's personality, but you more have David's height. Christian was 6'1". David, what are you clocking in at these days? What, 5'7", 5'8"?
5'10".
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
I'll pass to you on Christian Ubicki.
Yeah, I thought he played a flawless pre-merge. I mean, we saw it from the get-go on the marooning. He was just making everyone laugh, and there was no chance he was going to leave in the pre-merge on either tribe because they needed him because he proved how well he was at puzzles and all that.
Was he on the dominant green tribe? I don't remember. Was he on green, orange? He wasn't on that purple Jabeni group.
He was on green. Him, Gabby, Allison, John, Dan.
Dan Rengering, John. Okay, so he was on that good team, but he was good at puzzles. Him and Gabby were a good puzzle team. I do remember that now.
Yeah, and I feel like he played an excellent pre-merge game. In my opinion, one of the best ever. But once he hit the merge, he kind of drew dead because, for some reason, people like to hate on Angelina, but she was smart in realizing this guy is too likable, and he's going to sweep the jury if he gets to the end, which is true. I feel like that's accurate.
I flirted with him being, and I have another tier of other people who I felt were just truly robbed as one-timers. But then I thought the recency bias might get to me, even though one of those people is an EOE person. But I think Christian did well. I think in hindsight, I could have put him a little higher, but we're gonna have him at 79 right now.
Yeah, and one more thing about him, he was drawing dead at the merge, but he used the social connections to get Davey to save him. He was able to find some idols to save him, and they were just able to pick up the Goliath, so he was able to stay until day 35. But I would love to see him come back. I think he will at some point, but I just feel like he's going to have a tough time because his target level after
if he comes back
for sure.
All right, so now we're done with an old school run. New school. We're going back to old school for this one. At number 78, give me Gary Hawkins from Survivor Guatemala. oh, wait. I'm sorry. I have it wrong. It's Gary Hogaboom from Survivor Guatemala. I'm sorry. And I guess he's a football player. I thought he was a landscaper.
I thought he was a landscaper too. Yeah, that's news to me.
The main reason he's up this high is he found the first hidden immunity idol. You can't take that away from him.
Right.
And he played it right. He played it at the correct time.
Yeah, the hidden immunity idols, it was a little different that season, but he was going to go home with that tribal because you had to give the idol before the votes were even passed.
Yeah, before, but the reason I say successful is because we heard from multiple people in the dominant group that season that Gary was the person that was going home that night.
Oh, no, I agree. And he is, I would say him and maybe Brad Culpepper are two of the better athletes to perform on Survivor.
That's funny because Brad Culpepper is coming up on this list, and he is on this list.
There we go. But yeah, he did well for an athlete. It's hard for me to remember some stuff from Guatemala, but he is a solid player.
Yeah. He was on. They did a relatively early swap that season, and he was down in the swap that season.
Okay.
I had it was Brandon Bellinger, who you probably don't remember, Bobby John, Danny, and Stephanie. That was like the dominant four against Brian Corridan, Gary, and Amy. And he was the last one left there. You
Okay.
have to credit there, and he found the idol. And, I have Gary up on this list. I mean, he did start the whole hidden immunity idol thing.
Right. Trendsetter.
And I know it's a season people forgot about. I have 2 more people from Guatemala on this list above Gary.
Alrighty.
All right, we're going to keep going. Number 77. Give me Wu Huang from Survivor Cagayan, which in hindsight, I'm thinking that's a little too high.
And second chances too, right?
Second chance, that's right. I mean, Wu played a good social game. He also had a indefensible big blunder like Eric Reichenbach did. But Wu came back on the second time. I mean, he did pretty well. I mean, Wu went to 5 of the first 6 tribal councils.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not looking to give people sympathy, but you have to at least understand that he lost the first 2, then he lost 3 with yellow, then he won 1, and then he got voted out on the second swap. Like they did that second swap, 1 tribal council, then merged. That's where Wu went out. But I thought Wu played pretty well. He was good socially in Cagayan. I mean, he was not an elite strategist, but he was following along with what's going on. And when I say following along, I don't mean just doing whatever Tony tells him. He was right in there in those strategy talks. And, what a lot of people don't remember is that the LJ boot, a lot of that was Wu. Wu was doing his whole ninja stealth mode. You can't catch me. He was from Spencer. And what happened was he found LJ. He heard LJ talking about how, I don't know about Wu. And then he was the one that spearheaded the let's get LJ out of here.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean,
Wu.
So Wu, and this is what we were talking about with Savage. They both played similar games in the sense that it was all about loyalty, honor, and integrity. Wu played great alongside Tony and Trish, that whole bronze faction, and he was able to just coast with that alliance. I do think
Hold on. Now that I think about it, there's 4 Braun people on this season. On this.
Okay, there we go.
4, not 3. I forgot about Wu.
Yeah, and he played good socially, like you touched upon. Everyone liked him. He's a very likable guy. I do think what came back to bite him, and yes, if he does make it if he is up against Cass, I do say he wins easily, but I do think he gets a couple.
I disagree. I think Cass wins.
Really?
That's a good debate that we need to have at some point.
Okay.
But anyway, you can continue. That's not the point.
Yeah, I feel like he gets maybe a couple votes taken away from him because he is another player who needs to understand how current Survivor is played, where it's a little bit more cutthroat, and he had plenty of opportunities to flip with Spencer and Tasha, but he's just
he chose not to,
yeah, he just is I don't know, bro, dude, I don't know if this is the right move to make, and that's kind of, it didn't cost him per se, but we don't know how people would have felt if he was up against Cass in the end. Obviously, he made that huge blunder taking Tony. It was a $3 million mistake now in 2020, but I understand why he did it because, his game was all about honor, and he felt like Cass was least deserving to be there in the end with him instead of Tony. And then he came back in second chances, and, he just got a little unlucky with going to 5 of the first 6 tribal councils. So you can understand why he got voted out in the pre-merge. He played a similar game, just excellent social game, helping out in the challenges, doing his part. But, he did rub a few people the wrong way at the beginning, with not taking a side or not. He wasn't straight with Spencer and Shireen at the first tribal, and Abby, he kept on writing her name down. So, you can kind of understand why he got the boot over Spencer a bit in that final premier tribal council. But, he's a solid player and he's a fan favorite for sure.
All right. Here it is. I know you've been dying to talk about it. Natalie White coming in at number 76.
Okay.
Which is also in line with the Russell Hantz specialists, Rob C. Josh Wigler list. So I am right in unison with them on Natalie White.
All right. Take it away.
I mean, I'm going to start with the negatives. we did not see a lot from Natalie White. We saw a lot of Russell Hantz.
Right.
Natalie, what a lot of people forget about, I mean, I know you don't forget about, but I'm just saying, at the merge, Russell was going to try to get like Laura Moret and the girls to flip. And like Tony said to Woo, I don't think that's a good idea. Natalie was like, no, Russell, don't do that. That's not going to work. And Russell tried and it just didn't work. And they just wanted to get rid of Russell even more. And so Natalie went to the girls and Natalie was like, hey, I know. I mean, Laura already liked her. Laura Moret and Natalie. Do you remember they did the kidnapping thing that season where like you got to keep someone from the other tribe for a couple of days?
I do remember that. Yeah, they used to do that.
So the last one, when they voted out Liz Kim, Foa like won the reward, and so they got to kidnap Laura Moret. And Laura and Natalie really hit it off. And then they voted out Eric. That was not a Russell move. That was a Natalie move.
Yeah. A lot of people forget that.
And Natalie, and here's another Natalie thing that she identified how she was playing in the third episode. So this I feel like you don't remember. We're sitting at Tribal Council. It's the third Tribal. And we are talking about one of the most beloved survivors ever, the one and only Ben Browning. The one that just got kicked out of a challenge. The one that called Jeff a sissy.
Yep.
And
the infamous Ben Browning.
Yes. So we're talking about when Yasmin came over. And so Ben is talking about how Yasmin is trash and she's from the ghetto, this is all not good, by the way. And and then Jason is sitting next to him and being like, dude, like, don't be so mean. Like, this is becoming personal. And then so Natalie is the one that's sitting like behind them. You know how they do like the staggered thing? So like Jason and Ben are sitting in the front too, and then Natalie's on the back one between them. And Jeff's like, Natalie, this has got to be fun. And Natalie says, like, you know, Jeff, I'm just staying out of the way. If these guys are going to fight with each other, then I'm just going to stay behind and I'm going to make it work. That's a Natalie White quote right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a travesty by the Survivor editors not to show us more of the winner. I mean, I think we were talking about before this started, like she had 30 confessionals, or what, 15, sorry?
15. Russell had 108.
Yeah, so...
And just looking at the other follow group, I mean, Mick had 31 because Mick was the leader. And Jason had 24, you know.
Yeah, you got to give more confessionals to the winner. It's a travesty we weren't able to see more of her. You know, she seemed to have played a solid social game. She had that move at the merge where she was able to flip the tables on Eric, even though Foa was down 8-4 in numbers. Similar, like kind of what someone else, I'm 100% sure we're going to talk about them later, what Sandra did in Heroes versus Villains. Not that it was a little bit different. She was able to turn the tables on Coach and make sure Russell didn't vote her out or Courtney out, so she was able to save them too for another round. But yeah, and then you see these other scenes throughout the season where Natalie White is able to connect with players like Brett about religion. So it's clear that she's making social connections. She got herself in a little bit of trouble at the final 10, I think, when John Fincher flipped to avoid a rock draw with her and Laura. But I mean, she played a good enough game to win, and I think it would have been interesting to see her in the season like Winners at War, but it's definitely just...
I disagree with you there. I'm happy she was not there because you know what she did? She did something smart after she won. She immediately recognized that people really thought Russell should have won, and she just went off the grid. She took her money, went back to her house in Arkansas, and like no one's heard from her since.
Yeah, I mean, more power to her for doing that. It's just my reasoning is I feel like she could have had a similar like storyline to Michelle where people don't feel like Michelle was worthy of winning.
True.
That's the only thing. It would have been interesting to see that play out, but
all right.
Yeah, that's what I have to say about Natalie White.
I am ready for Reddit to come at me again for my number 75. Give me Joe Anglem, Joey Amazing, coming in at number 75.
The 3-time Survivor player. All right.
Joe is great at challenges. Can't deny that. Would you agree?
Sure. Best, in my opinion, best all-around challenge performer of all time over Ozzy.
Joe is terrible at the game. Joe is terrible.
There's a lot to be left with Joe. Yeah.
I mean, here, we'll go through each season. We'll start with Worlds Apart his first time, his tribe loses 2 of the first 4. I mean, that's not his fault.
Right.
He is able to get through. When they threw the challenge to get rid of him, they eventually voted out Joaquin instead. I mean, I don't think Joe went to like Mike and convinced him. I think that was more Mike thinking, I need to weaken Rodney. And then he wasn't able to pull people in. He just kind of like went down with the no callers at the merge. On Second Chance, Second Chance was better. He was able to integrate himself with the whole Jeremy and Savage group, and the next person on my list was also in this group, and that's why I'm going to bring them up. I have Tasha right above Joe. I have Tasha right above him.
Okay.
And but the thing with Joe is he wasn't eligible to go home till day 30 because he won every single pre-merge, and then he won 4 immunities in a row to start the merge.
Right. His target was immense.
And then EOE, he won all the pre-merge challenges, and then he went home at the merge because he wasn't able to integrate himself. In my opinion, Joe Anglin has showed over 3 seasons that he can win challenges, and he does not do a lot else.
Yeah, I think he over the course of his 3 seasons, just real quickly, you hit on it pretty well. Yeah. Excellent. Best challenge performer of all time, in my opinion. He's
gotten worse in the game over his 3 seasons. I would argue that he has gotten worse at the game. I really would.
I can understand that argument. Listen, like we said, great in the challenges. He's just like this chill persona that everyone can get along with around camp.
Yeah, pretty good social. I have to give him that too.
Yes, good at the camp life, but just not much strategy, and that's kind of led to his demise. He benefited from being kind of like, it really didn't even matter because he kept on winning immunity in Cambodia, but he was a meat shield for Jeremy. And then obviously we saw everything fall apart in the merge at EOE where he just didn't want to strategize and instead paint the tribe flag. So, great guy. And maybe we'll see Joe 4.0 at some point, but
I think we will. I think Survivor is going to overuse this guy.
He's a fan favorite. Yeah, I understand.
And then I have Tasha right above him, similar archetype, but that I feel like the Cagayan Brains 3, the Spencer Cass Tasha crew, they were able to make it far in Cagayan. I feel like all 3 of them had a part in all of that. I really do. I feel like it wasn't just Spencer or just Cass. I feel like Tasha did have some parts of that.
I agree.
And in Second Chances, we saw Tasha get to the end and not get any votes, but Tasha was pretty good socially out there, I can't complain. Again, I don't think she did enough in Second Chance, but, I think she played better than Joe Anglin, in my opinion.
Yeah, in Cagayan, she's, I loved watching her Cagayan. She kind of came out of nowhere winning 3 straight immunities, I think.
Yeah, so she won 3 in a row.
And she had a solid social game. She was getting along with everyone, even with the Brains tribe, as you were talking about, kind of collapsing early on. And she was able to integrate herself well.
Hey, here's the fun fact of the podcast. On the post-merge of Cagayan, all immunity challenges were won by Cagayan players on Second Chance.
Oh, that is a fun fact. I didn't even know that. That is cool.
Because Wu won 2, Tasha won 3, Cass won the 1, and I think Spencer won 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Tony never won. Trish never won. None of the beauties ever won. Oh no, I heard that the other day, and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's really all I've got to say about Tasha and Joe.
Yeah, and then quickly just talking about her in Cambodia, she played a solid game within her alliance that carried her to the end with linking up with Jeremy and Spencer. She played solid socially. She held her own in the challenges. It's just, again, it's one of those things that some people fall victim to is where she was just seen as a goat who didn't get really any credit for any moves that were made by the group. She just wasn't really taken seriously in that respect. But, she played a solid enough game. She made it to day 35, I think, in Cagayan and 39 in second chance. It's very solid.
Yeah. All right, now we're getting into a tier of players who made the final tribal council and didn't win that I thought were pretty good players. That's where we're going now. Number 73, give me Lisa Welchel from Survivor Philippines.
TV star.
TV star, she did cry a lot. Okay. That season had a lot of really good players on it. I mean, you had Henner, you had Malcolm, you had Denise, you had, I'd argue, Jeff Kent, Pete Yurkowski. You can even argue, as we talked about earlier, Abby Maria. And Lisa was able to get to the final three. And she got a vote.
From, was it RC, I think?
I believe it was RC. Because I swear this is the last time we're going to talk. Because Carter voted for Mike Scoopin.
Redacted. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Lisa, she did. People forget Philippines. Just a quick side note: that's one of the tougher seasons in Survivor history because it rained for the first 21 days of that game.
That season had a lot of rain.
And
have you heard the story about the tribe post-merge tribe name? They wanted to call it.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Penner talking about that.
No, production was like no.
Right.
So they had to call it Dang Rain.
Yeah, I remember production said they're like, you can call it whatever you want. We're just never going to address you by that, which I thought was hysterical.
Imagine if they had to bleep out the screen every time.
Family show.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, Lisa did well enough to make it to the end. I think there was some strategy in her, which was great to see.
Yeah. She and it was her and that name that we've redacted. The two of them flipped to Penner's side to vote out artists.
Right.
And then eventually Pete. And so that was a move, but that was a Lisa move. That was not a redacted move.
Yeah, and she had a social game like Dawn being seen as like the motherly figure. She played that well. And she made it to day 39. And I don't know. I'm sure she didn't expect to win because everyone knew she was a TV star at that point. And, who wants to give like famous people the money in Survivor? That's just the old stigma attaching celebrities who on the show. But she did well.
She did do well. All right, we're going to keep going here. Give me Stephanie LaGrossa, number 72.
Okay. I knew she'd come up on this list at some point.
Palau, I mean, that's an extenuating circumstance. I mean, that's never going to happen again. Guatemala, right. I'm not going to lie to you after rewatching it. She was terrible in Guatemala. Well, not terrible. She was not good.
Yeah, she did a complete 180. Shout out Joel Embiid. But yeah. No, Palau was a great underdog story. She was the fan favorite, like you said. That'll never happen again, though, where she's the only one in her tribe. And she was able to stick around for like a vote or two after the merge. Guatemala, she just turned around, kind of became a little bit more cutthroat, like cutting people like Judd. And she had a good connection with Danny and Rafe, I believe. And she did everything. She played a classic game of making sure you get to day 39 and like seeing what happens after that.
Yeah.
And
I feel like she thought she had a chance.
And she got 2 votes, or she got 1 or 2 votes, I think. But
I think it was 2. Let's ask. Oh, shout out to a Survivor Wikia for being one of the best things ever.
Excellent resource.
And resource.
Say that one more time.
And a trusted resource.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, she did good enough. I definitely think everyone believes that Danny probably should have won that season. And just talking about her heroes versus villains quickly, because she got voted out second. I kind of think it was just because her and James had that rift for whatever reason. I'll never know really why James just got so angry at her, but that kind of cost her the game. And she she didn't get herself started. She just got voted out second, which is unfortunate for, in my opinion, one of the more popular players before in the old school era.
All right. This is the fun part. At 71 and 70, I have both Culpeppers.
Oh, okay. Back to
I
back.
put them together because they both had a similar archetype where both of them struggled the first time. You know, Brad, I'll start with Brad. Brad was too abrasive in Blood versus Water. He was too aggressive. And you know what, though? What a lot of people don't remember is at the end, when he went to Redemption Island, it was both Codys that were there.
Right.
And he was like, hey, I'm really sorry about what happened. I got voted out today, and I realized I was being too aggressive. And Candace was like, whatever. F you, Brad Culpepper. But John Cody was like, I forgive you.
Right.
And then now I'm going to go to Monica. On her first time in One World, I mean, we didn't get to see a lot of her. We really didn't. But I'm looking at she kind of got swap screwed because it was her and Christina Cha with like the Colton, Tarzan, Leaf, Jonas contingent.
Okay. Yep.
And then they both come back for their second times. I mean, they both play a very similar game. They both play pretty much the same game. As Brad would say, what would Monica do?
Yeah.
They both get to the end. They both play pretty well, you know? I feel like the bigger transformation is Brad because everyone remembers Brad being this big you-know-what out in Blood versus Water, but he's just a nice guy out in Game Changers, you know? I know we don't want to remember Game Changers, but...
Yeah, so Brad and Monica, I think it's interesting, like, their Survivor careers are, like, symmetrical in the sense that they both got voted out on the same day the first time they played, and they both made it to day.
What was like day 13?
It was like day 13, 14, or 15, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brad he rubbed everyone the wrong way his first appearance. You know, everyone was seeing him as like the figurehead of the rookie tribe, I guess I'll call them. And he was in control there. And then obviously he got blindsided by Caleb and got sent to Redemption Island. And that was that. But he was a very polarizing figure his first appearance around. Monica, like you said, we really didn't see much of her in One World, but they both came back and they did solid. I mean, Monica, I think she got a little bit too much hate because I
did too. I think a lot of them didn't vote for her just because she was associated with Brad. Because a lot of those fans really hated Brad.
Right. And they more so attributed what she did as like more of like just being all Tyson in the end.
Yeah.
And then Brad, you know, I thought he played well up until the finale of Game Changers, whereas
he kind of went back to his old ways with the whole tie situation.
Yeah, that's kind of part of what cost him the game, and I guess he didn't connect with people as much as they wanted him to, as Michaela pointed out. The final,
they both had good turnarounds, so I figured I'd put them together because, again, their careers are almost symmetrical on Survivor.
Right, and people forget Brad is one of the few people to win 5 immunities in one season, which I think is a feat of their own, especially when he was like 48 years old.
Okay.
He did a great job of managing that relationship with Debbie after she was like mad at him for some reason in the pre-merge of Game Changers after they voted out Malcolm. I don't know why Debbie was freaking out at him, but he did a great job of managing those relationships and making sure no one turned the tables on him. Yeah, I think they're both solid players and they showed a lot of growth in their second times around. And I'm content with their stories. I don't think we need to see them again.
I don't think we need to see either again. I think they wrapped up well.
For sure.
Okay, so this is not intentional. But at number 69, I have Keith Nail.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like some people are going to find that funny. I think Keith Nail holds a special place in my heart. Because for those of you out there, I'm going to tell you about my history with Survivor. So one random night, Wednesday night in April 2014, I was bored. I was surfing the TV, and I came across Survivor. And it was the merge boot of Cagayan. So I had absolutely no idea what was going on. And then I finished out Cagayan, And then in the summer of 2014, my parents divorced. And so in the fall of 2014, I was very down. And I watched Survivor San Juan del Sur. And I fell in love with Keith Nail because he's like my dad. And so Keith Nail holds a special place in my heart. So that's why I have him at 69. But in terms of Survivor, David, you know, a lot of people remember Stick to the Plan from San Juan del Sur, which is not good. But he was good socially, you know. He and Missy were able to maintain at least a cordial relationship, you know. I mean, Keith and Baylor didn't really get along. But, you know, Keith, this is like, I feel like, would you agree, David, this is the first time we've seen someone walk out on the island, have no idea what's going on, and then at the end of the game, understand New School Survivor?
I would agree with that. Yeah, no one else comes to mind. I feel like that's accurate.
But, like, this is the extreme. Like, he walked out on that island, and he had no idea what Survivor was.
Yeah.
And he found an idol. He played a successful idol in San Juan del Sur. A lot of people don't remember that.
Right.
And then in Second Chance, I mean, we didn't see a lot of him. But, you know, I'm going to give credit to this to Troyzan when we get to him, you know. On these all-returnee seasons, in the past, one of these quieter people that doesn't make a lot of moves wins. See Amber, see Sandra.
Right.
And so Keith played that well, and he got through that debacle at Final Six where if both sides stayed put, then Keith would have gone home by default.
Exactly.
You know, what do you say about Keith Nail?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's one of my favorite Survivor characters of all time over his 2 seasons in San Juan del Sur and Second Chances. I mean, he just always gives you a good soundbite. It's great to see his father-son bond with Wes in his first season. And, you know, some of the things he says, like Survivor, like going on a cruise is fun, Survivor ain't fun. Like, that's a great quote.
That was a good quote. Another one was, I hope you're enjoying your crab on your birthday in Nicaragua.
Right. That was... And he was able to win some clutch immunities.
He did. He won 3 in San Juan del Sur.
Right.
And then he won 2 in Cambodia.
Yeah, and he won the one that eventually got Joe voted out. I mean, Joe collapsed, but no fault to Keith. I mean, he's winning these immunities at almost 60 years old. But yeah, he's one of the better like social players, in my opinion, ever. Because, you know.
Yeah, no one's ever been mad at Keith in the 2 seasons. Well, I think Jeremy was a little bit in San Juan del Sur, but I think that was just Jeremy being a bit of a baby.
And no one's ever targeted him. I mean, he's kind of got himself in hot water a couple times, like you just said with the whole Jeremy thing, but no one's really ever targeted him for like any malicious reasons. It's just, this guy's going to win at the end. We got to get him out. But
I think I have him a little high in hindsight, but again, like I said at the beginning, he just holds a very special place in my heart. I will always remember him.
And definite fan favorite. And, you know,
maybe. Would you be opposed to seeing Keith again?
That's what I was just going to talk about. I mean, I'll go for another Keith Nail ride. Why not?
You know what you're going to get?
Right. I mean,
he's going to become an elite strategist. But he knows what's going on. And, you know, I feel like he'd be a good balance if he was in another like if they did a Heroes Villains 2, he could be a good hero.
Absolutely.
And provide a break from like the constant strategy.
I wouldn't be opposed to Keith Nail 3.0, but the thing I just have with Survivor these days is I feel like too many players are getting like some of these players, and we've probably talked about this, like, I don't need to see some of these players like 3, 4, 5 times. Like it almost feels like overkill. But Keith Nail, you know, again, this is what I talked about earlier. It's great to have characters like him because I don't want 20 game bots on my screen. So it's very refreshing.
All right. Number 68, give me Devin Pinto from HHH.
Oh, okay. I forgot about him.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a little high in hindsight, but he was underrated doing a lot in HHH. Like, he was kind of sort of running that Hustlers tribe.
I agree.
And then, which Swap Tribe was he on that season? I don't remember.
He was on the one with Alan, Desi,
Oh, he was on the blue one with Alan, Desi, Joe Mena, and
Ashley.
Ashley. Okay.
Mhm.
He was worked that too. And in the merge, he was doing pretty well. I mean, was he in that like dominant 5? Or no? I don't think he was. Or
So he was part of the original 7 to vote out Jessica, and then he integrated himself into that powerhouse with Ben, Lauren, Ashley, and then I forget the other person. Ben.
I think Chrissy was in there too. Yeah,
possibly. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think he's another person who, in my opinion, had a flawless social game. Very chill persona.
he really did.
He played up that like surfer dude mentality really well. He, as the game went on, he proved to have a little bit of strategy, telling like Ben to vote for JP so he can play like double agent. Putting his vote on Mike at Final 5 so he doesn't get idled out by Ben. Those are some excellent strategies.
That was smart, yeah.
And he was just this like chill persona, and he was able to flip on Ryan and still get a Final 3 deal from Ryan and Chrissy later on in the game. So that just speaks to his social game.
Yep.
It is one of the bigger travesties, I think, in Survivor history that we did not get a Chrissy, Ryan, Devin Final 3, because I feel like that would have been epic and it could have went in any direction.
That would have been great.
People did say in post-game interviews they didn't realize that Devin had so much game to him until they were watching it on the show because they thought he was just some like airhead. So that may have come back to hurt him. I don't know if he would have won, but he's a great player, and I'd like to see Devin Pinto 2.0. I mean, he said he'd only play again if it was blood versus water, but I feel like we could see him again in some other capacity.
Yeah, I agree. I think you summed it up well. Next up, 67. We're going back to EOE. Give me Gavin from EOE at number 67.
Interesting.
David with a very interesting facial expression.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. I mean, I don't penalize people if they don't get this, but I do give it to them. Gavin voted correctly at every single tribal he went to.
Right.
I have to give him that.
He was on the wrong side of the Kelly blind side. That was the only one.
Oh, I'm looking at the wiki here. Oh, yes, that is correct. He did vote wrongly there, but
and that's what led to the whole War Dad versus Gavin feud for like an episode.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that was one of the weirder storylines, just like with Ben and Adam and 40. But anyways,
well, in my opinion, I think Gavin should have won EOE the way it ended.
We've talked about this. I agree with you.
Yeah. But another thing. This is something I'm also going to give to Tommy Sheehan when we get there. He didn't play any advantages.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he won. I think he won 2 immunities. Might be 1.
Who are we talking about? Gavin?
Gavin, yeah.
Gavin won 2.
I'm looking here. It looks like it's 2, yeah.
Okay, yep.
I mean, again, we've talked about this one, but, I think he was better than a lot of people thought.
I agree.
So just to keep it moving, since we've already talked about him, number 66.
I think your mic cut out.
66. And you looked like you were cutting on me too. You good?
Okay.
You good?
We're good. Yep.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We have a Mama C, 66.
Okay. Yeah, solid player. Runner up. She was another one, again, hence her nickname. She played out the motherly role well. She did well in challenges. She was in that middle spot of Worlds Apart, which I think she played effectively, where she had Mike, who really had no other direction to go, and she also had the other factions like Rodney, like Sierra Dawn Thomas, and all of them.
I'm looking at Wiki right now. This is something impressive. She holds the record for longest amount of time held on to a hidden immunity item. She found it on day 1 and didn't play it until day 35.
That's impressive. Yeah, she just did a good job of managing relationships. Obviously, she was up against Mike, who had a more favorable underdog story, and he was able. He had a better final tribal council performance, and although Mama C did get some votes, I do think she's a solid player, and I feel like she's long overdue to come back. She's supposed to come back in Game Changers, but got cut for Michaela. But I feel like we'll see her again at some point.
Yeah, but here's something underrated about her. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it was. The fact that she and Rodney got along, I think, is amazing because she's from New York and Rodney's from Boston, and Rodney's one of these typical Massachusetts guys where he hates anything to do with New York. But, he was able to put it aside, and Carolyn put hers aside. I mean, and Joaquin too, but, I think that's just something else that she did well.
Yeah, and I feel like she could put together all the pieces and make another good run in another season.
All right, we're going on a winner's run here, David.
Alrighty.
Give me Ben at number 65, Ben Driebergen.
Okay, so are we going to cover both of his seasons or just his winning season?
We'll talk about both.
Okay.
Let's start with Triple H.
Yeah, so Triple H, as controversial as it is, everyone, Reddit, whatever you want to say, he played really well in that beginning tribe, getting both Alan. He got everyone literally to come to him. Alan, Ashley, Chrissy, and then Katrina. Managed relationships well. Then he got to the swap tribe, and it looked like him and Lauren were screwed because they were down numbers. But for some reason, the tribe Yawa didn't want to throw the immunity challenges.
Healers on that tribe? I know. Who were the 3 healers on that Yawa tribe? It was
Dr. Mike, Cole, and then Jessica.
Okay. Yeah. And
he was able to win those challenges.
They won all the challenges, if I remember correctly.
And then he did well in the first part of the merge, getting rid of those healers and establishing himself as a big part of that alliance. And then basically, to put it frankly, stuff hit the fan. He got super paranoid, and they almost took him out at the time where they took out Joe, I think in 9th place or whatever, 8th place. And and then his whole alliance turned on him. There's that scene of him listening to them in the bushes, plotting to blindside him. And then basically, although he did he was essentially by himself for the rest of that game. That's where it gets controversial. He take it for what it is, but I'm not going to fault him for playing 3 idols correctly. I mean, that was or maybe 2, because one of them he played it before tribal, so we don't know what would have happened when Ashley got voted out. But yeah, he played 2 or 3 idols successfully, whatever you want to call it, and he definitely did luck out from that being the first season, the fire making challenge at Final Four. But he played an exciting game, not a game that I would look back on as a great winning game, but it was exciting to watch.
Yep, I agree. And then in Winners at War, he definitely got off to a really bad start.
I agree with the whole.
We were playing circles around this guy.
Yeah, when we were watching it together.
We were watching that together. Yeah,
B-Rob just ran circles around him in the finale, or not the finale, the first episode. That was funny. Yeah.
But then, he did get in with Sarah, and that did work for him.
For sure.
I mean, would you say he quit at 5? I wouldn't say he quit. I mean...
Nah, he was just kind of content with the Survivor experience, and some people say it was more so he realized he wasn't going to win.
Now, did he start talking about, how people received him negatively on the show?
That was never talked about, which I found interesting because they talked about that a lot with Michelle, and I feel like they would have said that about Ben too.
Or Denise.
Right. But, me and you, I remember me and you were both talking about this before the season. We didn't think Ben had a chance of making it past the merge, and he made it to 5th place, so credit to him.
Yeah. That was awesome.
I will say, and I think I can speak for most of the Survivor fan base when I say this, I feel like people enjoyed Ben more in Winners at War than they did in Triple H because he was just more goofy.
Fully agree.
More likable, for sure.
All right. Number 64. Give me the second luckiest winner of all time, in my opinion. Give me Fabio.
I
just rewatched, made it through the whole thing.
Oh, wow. There we go.
There's actually an interesting controversy about this and that we're going to get to. So I mean, Fabio starts on the young people tribe. I mean, he's immediately not in the mix because Nayanka's like, Fabio, I don't like you.
Fabio, she don't like you.
I mean, but they managed to do well at the beginning, but he wasn't in a good spot. Then they swap and he stays on the young team, and the young people have the numbers advantage. It's like Fabio, Kelly B, Brenda, and Sash
Yep.
against Marty, Jane, and Jill. And they pick up Jane. And Brenda and Fabio, they kind of, I don't want to say like are in an alliance, but they, to quote War Dog, they kind of have this non-aggression pact thing.
That's a great quote, by the way. I love the reference.
Yeah. So he's able to make it through there and get to the merge. And then at the merge, it's not that good. Like, he's down because the main crew was Marty, Dan Lembo, Benry, and Fabio. That was the crew. And then they got voted out. And so this is interesting. So I bet you've heard about Mortgagegate.
Yes, I have.
About it? Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about it. So apparently what happened was at Final 6 before going into Tribal, Sash went to Jane and said, Jane, I think you're going home tonight, but if you help me win, I will pay off the mortgage of your farm.
This is against the rules, by the way.
This is very much against the rules. And so it somehow comes up at Tribal. Like, I don't remember how. The editing was funny here. But I guess somehow it comes up. And when I watched the Tribal, I was like, they were talking about it, and then they just immediately cut to something else. And I was like, what? And so I rewound and watched it again. And, they said Jane was like, oh, well, Sash said he was going to help me if I vote. He was going to pay off my house if I go home tonight, and I help him. And then they immediately cut to like Dan Lembo talking about the challenge. And the rumor is that Jeff Probst didn't know who was lying. And then what happened was they didn't. Now, this is immediate grounds for disqualification, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. However, they just had 2 people quit that they didn't do that because the PR was already so bad for the season.
Right.
So eventually when they get to the final Tribal, Jeff Probst told all the jurors Sash is ineligible to win the game.
Interesting.
Except they still edited it as if they were still like talking to him. Now, I don't think he was going to win anyway.
I agree with that.
But yeah, Marty said this in an interview somewhere that they were told going in, you cannot vote for Sash. He is ineligible to win. He was disqualified. He broke the rules. But they didn't like remove him because the PR was already so bad from the double quit.
See, that's interesting because I don't know if you saw, but on Reddit, Dr. Jill from that season, she did an AMA, and she just said Mortgagegate didn't happen. But again, she got voted off pre-merge, so I don't even.
Yeah, Marty was post-merge. But anyway, the reason I bring that all up is because Fabio gets pretty lucky from there, and then he wins a bunch of immunities. He wins like the last 3, and then he beats out Chase Rice. I mean, Chase Rice that season, he was not great, but
yeah, it was just kind of like, he was just like your average player. People forget he would have won if they inserted or established that rule in that season where if you quit during the jury phase, you're gone because he didn't.
Chase Rice wins Survivor. He might not take off in country music.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a solid player. Or not Fabio. Sorry, Fabio. I wasn't a big fan of watching him, if I'm being honest. He did play well into that whole like surfer bro mentality. Like, no one's going to take me seriously. I'm a 21-year-old kid. And that worked out well for him. But, more power to him. He went on that clutch immunity run at the end when people realized, like, oh, we should probably pay attention to this kid. And, He won. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm looking at the mortgage gate on Wikipedia. I know you're dying to talk about it more, but
well, it's interesting. It's an interesting controversy.
So yeah, according to this, on day 33, Jane was approached by Sash with an agreement telling Jane that she was going to go home tonight. Sash offered to pay off Jane's house if she was able to convince the jury when she was there that Sash would win the game. This is completely against Survivor rule, blah, 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 specific rule number, where any plans to pool money after the show is immediately grounds for disqualification. It was Survivor fans noticed this poor editing at the final 6 tribal council when this was brought up and an outrage was brought up. It was determined that Sash was ineligible to receive any votes at the final tribal council. However, Survivor decided not to remove Sash Linehan from the game due to the already negative PR from the quits of both Nyanka Mixon and Kelly Shin.
Yeah, all in all, Nicaragua, not a good season at all for Survivor.
Oh, that was a pain to rewatch. That was bad.
Yeah,
I forgot how bad that was. All right, that's enough, Nicaragua. I think that's it for Nicaragua.
Good.
All right, number 63, Mike Holloway.
Yeah, solid. He was similar. Everyone talks about it, but it really is the resemblance, in my opinion, is super uncanny to him and Ben Driebergen. I mean, they started off really well socially, making everyone kind of not causing any waves or anything. And then obviously Mike made the fatal mistake at the auction.
Yes. It is very similar. It's similar. And then it's also similar where at the merge, they both begin and become integral parts of the majority group.
Right. And, he made that fatal mistake that got everyone to turn on him. And obviously
everybody was talking about that when that happened. That was a big thing. I remember.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And obviously both him and Ben relied on an immunity run to get it to the end. And, Mike was very clutch in winning 5 immunities, playing an immunity idol correctly. I will say he did kind of luck out not luck out, but it wasn't like he was completely alone because, again, he had that relationship with Carolyn, like I touched upon. So he had a little bit of something going for him, whereas Ben had no one.
Also, he and Dan sort of made up a little bit. I mean, not a lot, but
right. He did get Dan's vote at the end. He did a great job of getting that done.
That's another thing we have to mention. His final tribal did well.
Absolutely.
Think they came in and they were like still mad at him and they were ready to vote for Carolyn.
Right. It was a very bitter jury, and then it calmed down once Mike was able to explain himself.
Yeah. Well, I remember because this was the first full season I watched where I was like following along. Carolyn got off to a good start. Like Carolyn got to go first, and she was doing well. But then Mike really took over.
Do you think we'll see Mike 2.0?
That's an interesting question.
I feel like if we were going to see it, we would have seen it already, but I feel like...
I agree. I feel like we would have gotten it already.
He was supposed to be on Game Changers, but apparently Probst said that when he talked to him that he didn't seem motivated. And then the fact that he wasn't on Winners at War, I feel like is kind of like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I feel like we might be done, but the Worlds Apart cast, they're still all close together. I guess they all still hang out.
Dirty 30.
30, yeah. All right, last of the winners here, number 62. Give me Jenna Maraska.
Okay. Winner of Amazon, she I feel like we all look at Rob C as like the main character from that season.
Yeah.
He was, the mastermind, whatever you want to call him. But Jenna Maraska, she played a good social game. She played up like this whole, I'm a 21-year-old kid. I don't know if she flirted. I don't know if that's the right word, but she definitely used her physique and stuff to reel people in.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Chocolate peanut butter. That's a classic thing.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that was actually kind of popular, pop culture. A lot of people were talking about that, how her and Heidi stripped down for peanut butter. But there's countless scenes throughout that season of all the guys talking about who the hottest people are. And She was actually the first person to give away her immunity necklace to Heidi, and she actually survived that tribal council. So
she did.
She had
did that.
Yeah, she had.
Amazon's in extenuating circumstances. I mean, All Stars. There's no need to really talk about that.
Right. Very unfortunate what happened there.
But she outdid Rob C at the end. You have to give her credit for that. Rob C, arguably one of the best players of all time.
Yeah, and she was able to get Mateo or whatever his name is,
Matt,
on her side. What an interesting man. But yeah, no, it's been a solid winner, If Rob C wasn't going to win, I would say she's a solid winner.
Yep. All right, we're done with that. Number 60. I actually have two. This is something I just noticed. I have two LGBT contestants in a row here. Give me Zeke at number 60, Zeke Smith.
All right, I'll let you talk about this one.
Okay, well, so Zeke played back-to-back seasons. He played pretty much the same game, and he got voted out in place both times. But he's a part of such a big moment that we really do need to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. I know it's not fun, but we're going to talk about it. So what happened was I believe it was 7th Tribal Council?
Yeah, the one right before the merge.
Right before the merge. What happens is, so Jeff Varner is dead to rights, and he's trying to do whatever he can. And he says that to Zeke, did you tell everyone that you're gay? Which is awful. That sounds terrible. I'm not here to defend Jeff Varner, but his idea, what he was trying to say was, you haven't told anyone about this because if you did, it would affect your game. And it just didn't go well. It was perceived horribly. And he was immediately, was that an ejection? They eject him. I don't think it technically was, but.
Ejection/disqualification because they didn't even vote. They just said, just grab your torch. Yeah, that was very hard to watch. He was doing fine up until that comment. I mean, there was no chance he was going to stay, but he was at least trying to turn the tides on Ozzy.
Yeah. But that's it. That's it about talking about Jeff Varner here. But Zeke is just part of this moment, And the best part about all that is Zeke understood what Jeff Varner was trying to do. And Zeke really, he just said some awesome things. He was talking about, I've dealt with this before. I've dealt with these kinds of issues before. And, Zeke was just the bigger man, and he was just awesome in both of those situations. Now, in Survivor, I mean, if that didn't happen, he'd probably be in my mid-80s, but it was just such a big moment that I had to include him this high up in the list.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Zeke has said he will never play again. That's completely understandable, but just talking about his game a bit, I feel like there was a lot of potential for him to take the next step in his game because he's able to get through the first couple phases.
Yeah.
He's great in the puzzle, talented socially. Everyone loves him. But he had an issue both seasons where things didn't go his way and he'd start getting a little hissy, which is completely understandable. I mean, I feel like any of us would be like that if we're out there. But
and you see, this is something I'm going to talk about with I'm really jumping ahead here with both Russell Hantz and Amanda Kimmel, where they didn't get a chance to see their previous season.
Right.
Back out again, and so they did the same thing again. I mean, to a larger extent, but
he's a solid player. He could really benefit from learning to take a back seat. But obviously, he's never going to play again. But I enjoyed watching his game and Millennials versus Gen X and Game Changers. He's a very fun character.
Oh, I'm looking at something really funny on Instagram right now. It's not accurate at all, but it's really funny. So Trevor Lawrence is proposing to his girlfriend, and he's getting on his knee with the ring, and he's not actually on his knee.
Oh, jeez.
He's holding his knee in the air. It's pretty funny.
Oh, goodness.
That's not the point. I just saw that.
Yeah.
We're both sports fans, too, for all those out there.
Yeah, check out our sports podcast.
Yeah. All right, number 59. Give me Rafe from Survivor Guatemala.
Yeah, third place finisher. Somewhat of a fish out of water in terms of challenges. He was a challenge beast, which was
He
surprising.
was really good. He was really good at those challenges. He won 3 individual immunities.
Yeah, and he had some strategy to him. He got along with people socially, and
Yeah, he got along with everyone. No one was ever mad at Rafe. Not even Judd. Judd was like, even when Judd was voted out, he was like, it wasn't you, Rafe.
yeah,
It was Rafe.
Rafe was a good sportsmanship.
Rafe was a good sportsmanship.
But yeah, I feel like he's one of those players where if he were to come back, as long as he understands how the new school game works, I feel like he could actually potentially win.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be a great wild card. I feel like there could be some like where he'd come back on a returning player season. People would be like, "Who's this?"
Right, exactly.
I don't know. I really liked Rafe. So
Sure.
All right, number 58. Now, I'm gonna get a lot of recency bias coming in here, but I think this player, and you're gonna have to hear me out on this, was going to win EOE. I have Victoria.
Okay.
58. Victoria was playing so well. She blindsided Aubrey, blindsided Eric. Integral part of taking out War Dog and Kelly, and Dave Wright, and Aurora, and Ron. And Chris Underwood comes back and says to everyone, everyone on EOE is saying Victoria is a threat. And so Victoria goes home. Like, are you kidding me?
She got royally screwed by the EOE twist.
I mean, now people will say, well, it's in the rules that season. And yeah, I get that. But like, come on. It's
Right.
like, and guess how many advantages she played? 0.
And that's on the Survivor producers for not understanding that was going to happen in EOE. They were going to bond and talk.
That's happened in both times too. That's
Yes.
happened at War as well. I mean, I feel like the producers should have like thought about that. So I don't like to criticize them a lot, but Survivor producers, you got to fix that.
Good thing EOE won't be back for a while, but if it ever comes back, it needs to be modified. But on Victoria, I mean, she played a solid game with all the blindsides you were talking about, and she was flying under the radar, which was a solid thing. I feel like that was part of her plan, not to be like a target to anyone.
Who were people thinking was the main strategist from Kama?
I think it was all Ron Clark and
Ron and Aurora, and
maybe Julia to an extent.
they weren't even thinking Gavin either.
Nah, Gavin was in that. It was Gavin and Victoria were kind of on that same level, and that kind of took them so far in the game together. But I feel like Victoria, if she were to come back, in those boots of who is it? It was Julia and Eric, back-to-back boots towards the beginning of the merge. She didn't want either of them to go home, but she went along with it. And I feel like if she was to come back, she needs to develop a little bit more of a voice, not too much of a demanding voice, because, you know, if you try and control everything, you're just going to get voted out. That's Survivor 101. But maybe just a little bit more authority. But she did play a good game, and I feel like she, if it weren't for EOE, she probably would be sitting at the end. Unless
All right, you ready for a run of game changers?
Let's do it.
All right, I have 3 game changers people in a row here. Give me Troyzen at number 57.
He was on Game Changers? I'm kidding.
Yeah. I think it's a we'll start with One World. I mean, it's not a good season. The only 2 people that were actually applied were Kim and Troyzen. Everyone else was a recruit. But you know, he was trying, you know, it's just he really had nothing going for him. He had that one idol, and that was really, but Kim was smarter. Kim split the vote.
Right.
You know, but definitely memorable. This is my island.
Yeah, one of the more clutch immunity wins in Survivor history.
That's a great episode. He had 17 confessionals.
Right. He was a fun character in One World. You know, he was just like this he literally looked like he lived in the jungle when I first saw him on my TV screen. And
I love his first confessional ever on Survivor. He's like, what, this guy's name is Tarzan, but my name's hell, bro.
Yeah. Like you said, though, I mean, he was trying to do stuff. He just had no agency because no one was going to align with him.
Yeah. And then in Game Changers, like I said earlier, he said this in a podcast too. He said, "Well, I looked back at other all returning player seasons with Amber and Sandra, where the quieter, less flashy person will win." So that's what he did. He played his idol. He played the idol correctly at the debacle that was the final six.
Oh, advantage get on. Yeah.
Yeah. But then at the final three, they just didn't respect him.
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, that was part of his strategy too. He wanted to do a complete 180. I know I said that again earlier. Yeah. Shout out Joel Embiid, but
Joel Embiid.
Yeah, it was part of his strategy. I mean, it worked well for him to get to day 39, but
he also did the honorable thing where he's like, all right, guys, this isn't going my way, so I just wanted to pipe in and say, it was a good adventure. I mean, I appreciate all of you. It's unfortunate that you don't respect my game, but you know what? You guys are the ones voting. I thought that was very honorable by Troy Zan.
It was just frustrating that season, and it's nothing against Troy Zan, but it was just really annoying to see how he got farther than players like Sierra and Sandra and Tony. But obviously, we see it's worth it because of what happens in Winners at War. But
yeah,
it's annoying to see him coast by in his alliance and not do anything other than win one immunity. But nothing against Troy Zan; he was a fun character.
Yep.
But we've seen enough of him.
Yeah, I think I'm good with Troy Zan. He had a good ending with that whole honorable. It's been fun.
For sure.
Next up, give me Ty.
Okay. I like Ty.
Mr. I Find All the Idols.
Yeah, he has a knack for that. Wrong. So he was very likable in the early tribe, and he was even a fan favorite because I know he was very caring of the animals and all the plants because he is a gardener. Yeah. Excellent social game. I don't know if I'd call him a strong player, but one of the better overall placement-wise players in the new school era.
He got third and fourth. I mean, you can't take that away from him.
Yeah, I mean, there was no winning route for him. And
I don't think he's ever going to win. I think he has the fundamental flaw that I think the language barrier was a big thing at Korong, I guess, that they didn't really show.
And Korong, once he started backstabbing people, I know he backstabbed. What was her name in the pre-merge? I forget what her name was. Anna.
Yeah, Anna. Yeah.
And once he was just getting flip-floppy, and then obviously the whole infamous thing with Scott and Winston, that's kind of where he lost the game because he comes off as this nice, loyal guy. But it's good that he has a little cutthroat mentality to him, but that's what cost him. He had no chance of winning Cambodia. But Game Changers, he kind of plays a similar game where it's very neurotic, and he plays idols correctly, and he played a little bit more real in my opinion, where he stuck to one group. I think he has a better winning route if he gets to the end. I still think Brad edges him out, but I feel if he gets to the end in Game Changers, he may get some votes, and maybe he can swing some people due to just his likability. But I wouldn't be opposed to Ty 3.0. I've always liked him. I think he's a great character.
And our last Game Changers mention of the day, which I think is a good thing. Give me Andrea.
Andrea Belke, okay. I'll let you talk about her 3 appearances.
We'll start with Redemption Island. I mean, there's not much there. I mean, that was the Rob show, but she was the only other person out there who was really thinking.
Well, that's because she was one of the only people to apply that season as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. But she got into it. She was really getting close with Matt Elrod early, but she was able to quickly realize that I need to let that go for me to get further in the game.
Right.
She was on a season where Rob wasn't taking no for an answer. Karamoan, she was playing pretty well in Karamoan. I mean, and then same with Game Changers. I mean, what do you think is her fundamental flaw? I can't really explain it.
Well, here's the thing. She's able to get some agency and get some people on her side, but she doesn't realize that these people are thinking 2 steps ahead. And, I mean, listen, I'm not going to criticize her because it's easy for us to be armchair quarterbacks and talk about you should have done this and this and seen this coming. Yeah. Really, Karamoan was Cochran. not really realizing that he knew he couldn't take her to the end because she'd probably win, so he had to blindside her with an idol in her pocket.
Yeah.
And then Suri in Game Changers just realizing like she's too likable. She's won immunities because she won. I think she's like one of the only players to win immunity in all 3 of her seasons, and you just have to get rid of her before it's too late because she's so likable. And if she were to come back again, I feel like she'll always make it to the merge, but I don't know if she can kick it in a high gear and make it to the end.
Fun fact, she's gone down in placement every year. 6 in Redemption Island, 7 in Karamo, and 8th in Game Changers.
Yep.
All right, that's it for Game Changers. So next up, I have a big tier of what I think is the overrated legends, where there are legendary players who have played like multiple times, but I really don't think they're like as good as people say they are.
What number are we at, by the way?
We are at number 55.
Okay.
And they are this is how I ordered them, but you can put them however. I have Rupert, Ozzy, James, Colby, Penner, and Coach.
Okay.
So I was just going to talk about them all because I feel like everyone talks about them as like some of the greatest players ever, where they're really not.
They're, I think, very likable, all of them.
They're all, yeah.
Obviously, James had that little dispute like I talked about in season 20, but, you know.
Yeah. But the thing is, the reason I think Coach and Penner are the better 2 out of that group of 6 because I feel like they adapted more, especially Coach on his 3rd time. Like he ran South Pacific pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like they're all in that category where if they do one thing differently, we could be looking at all of them or even maybe half of them as winners. Like, Coach, if he owns his game at the final tribal council in South Pacific, he probably wins. That's kind of
if Colby takes Keith, he wins Australia.
Ozzy, he just kind of got unlucky in Cook Islands by the final 3 twists, and then South Pacific, if he wins final immunity, he sweeps it or gets most of the votes. And then Rupert, I mean, he's just never going to be able to win as much as I love him because he's one of my favorite players ever. He's one of pretty much every person's. When you think of Survivor, you think of people like Hatch and Rupert from the early seasons, but no one's ever going to go to the end with them. And people don't like to talk about this. He does have a bit of an abrasive personality. He's not like the easiest person to play with in Survivor, but he's still a fan favorite.
Yeah.
These players, Penner, people forget about his mistake in Philippines. He didn't accept Lisa's final 3 deal, which pretty much cost him the game. These are all players that are legends. Like, I understand why they qualify as legends, but I agree with you that they are overrated. And it's the thing that's bringing them down is that they haven't shown too much growth over the course of their seasons, I guess.
They've all been pretty much the same. I would say Coach has gotten better, and I would argue Penner has gotten better.
Okay, those are the 2 I can agree with. James kind of went downward.
James went down. Colby didn't really change. Ozzy didn't really change. Rupert didn't really change.
Right.
So that's it for that little tier. And the last person we're going to talk about, number 49, the reason I wanted to end with them is because they went to Linfield High School. Give me Danielle DiLorenzo at number 49.
Captain of sports.
The captain of sports.
Panama. She made the infamous move of getting Terry to teach her how to make fire and then cutting him at final 3, which was epic for TV. And I mean,
you give her credit for that.
That's the thing with old school Survivor because she got berated for doing that back in the day, but she would have gotten praise for doing that in normal Survivor. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah.
She's just a solid player. Good placement both times in Panama and then season 20. Obviously, she just kind of got screwed in season 20 by Russell thinking she was a threat and trying to get Parvati closer to him than closer to Danielle. But, very athletic, decent socially. I mean, I think she rubbed a few people the wrong way both seasons, but.
And one thing to the viewers out there, even though you can't see me because my computer's acting up, I went to Linfield High School, and Danielle DiLorenzo holds our soccer and track records for the school.
There we go. Right on.
Most goals in soccer and fastest 100-yard or 100-meter dash.
All right.
Danielle DiLorenzo.
Anything else you want to add to the Survivor contestant, Danielle DiLorenzo?
No, that's really it. I think we broke it down well.
All right, so yeah, that's part one of
Part 1.
Top 100 Survivors. We are going on just over 2 hours.
2 hours here. In
Yeah.
part 2, I'm going to start by recapping what we had here in part 1.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Do you have anything else to say, Joe?
I don't. David, I'll see you next time where we will go over players number 48 all the way to number 1.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of In Depth with David. The other episodes are on my YouTube channel, and pretty soon they'll be up on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast on iTunes and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sponge411, and we'll be talking to you guys next time. Have a great day.
All right. See you, David.
Yeah, I'll see you, Joe.